There is one thing I've rarely ever heard sports commentators talk about on television, and that is shooting percentage. When you're talking about the greatest players of all time and ranking the greatest players of all time, particularly, you never hear them talk about field goal percentage. And you can go on Wikipedia real simple and type in a player's name and go down to career statistics and look at FG percentage and 3 point percentage and see their shooting percentages. And so people wonder why I don't put Kobe Bryant at the top. He's one of the key ones. And why I end up changing my measure of certain players, it's based on shooting percentage. It means they didn't take very wise shots a lot of times. Just because you can take the ball on your back, you can shoot better than other people, you can do fancy shots, you can carry the weight, you can be aggressive. Sometimes, though, you should have passed that ball when it was a hard shot instead of missing the shot. When you miss a shot, the other team can go down and score and then get the lead on you. And so when it comes to shooting percentage, Kobe is particularly is the one I'm thinking of on this, because people get mad when you don't rank him at the top. But people look at the shooting percentage and it's a reality. His shooting percentage, he's played like Michael Jordan, but Jordan's shooting percentage was way up with all the top shooters, with the top scorers, the most effective, the best impact players. And so LeBron, Kevin Durant, even Larry Bird, Jordan, they all have better shooting percentage than Kobe. Even Dwayne Wade and Dr. J and Clyde Drexler, they all have better shooting percentage than Kobe. And there's other players that have, like Kyrie Irving has better shooting percentage than Kobe Bryant by far, not even close. And so that's where you can't put Kobe right there in the top, although he's a well-rounded player that carried the load, and he's a fan favorite. He's a fan favorite. He's a Hollywood favorite. He's maybe favored because he played in Italy or grew up some in Italy. That might be part of it. It may be that Hollywood kisses up to that. Maybe a lot of the gang culture that bullies people and says, you got to choose this, but they won't give a reason why. Oh, you know he's the best. How dare you be and they call it prejudice that you don't make him the best, but they're not showing you the stats. They're not letting you talk about stats. Media may be bound to that because drug cartel is a big deal in our society. And so where does all that come from? It starts, so you got the Mexican drug cartel, you got the American drug cartel, they never mention. But they do a lot of the gambling and stuff. American drug cartel, you got the Mexican drug cartel, which is Catholic from Rome, Italy. Spanish and Italian are similar languages. Romans crucified Jesus. Come on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff behind them favoring certain players and not telling the truth about stats. Stats matter. Stats matter. Effectiveness matters. It shows on paper what matters. I mean, the prettiest, Michael Jordan is lucky enough to be the prettiest player ever, right? When he's flying through the air, the way he flies through the air is very pretty. It's fancy. It's lovely, right? And but he also backed it up. He backed it up with his stats, with his shooting percentage. So Michael, and you just got all these other players that have better effectiveness on stats, but that's the one thing, the one trick, though, I would say that these commentators use when they're arguing this and they get biased and they want their favorite player to be the best. Kobe's easily a favorite player. He's got great personality, great competitive personality for competition. But in my opinion, he just didn't pass the ball enough. If he would have passed the ball a little more and not always taken the tough shots, and then he also decided he didn't want a big three. He wanted to do it by himself. He had Shaq for a while, but he wanted to prove he could do it by himself. But nobody's ever done it by themselves. They've had to have Kareem and Magic, and Worthy, I would say. I don't know who the number 3 best player is. They had Cooper was one of the best defensive players of all time. So you also have the defensive rating chart with basketball. Let's see, it's been a while since I've looked that up. But there's a certain site I go to that shows the defensive ratings, the best defensive ratings of all time. And I trust that because a computer did it. It's a computer formula. And then you got Kobe's not the best defensive player of all time, but he is at the top, near the top. And Dr. J is one of the best. He's better than Kobe. He's better than LeBron. He's better than Jordan. Jordan's better than LeBron on the defensive ratings. Whether the zone defense, changing the zone, affected that defensive ratings or not, it's possible. So I don't think LeBron had it the easiest, but because we went to zone defense during his career. So we went to zone defense, and that caused zone causes clutter in the paint. So it's harder to drive to the basket to do slam dunks, and that's what LeBron's known for. Now we had the 3-point added, and the stretch four, which helps stretch the floor to make it to counteract the, you know, help conflict with the fact that the paint was actually tighter in a zone defense. So that's so really who had it really easier. LeBron, because they went to zone defense, his defensive rating may be affected by that. It may have gone lower than it would in the man-to-man system. If it was man-to-man only like it used to be, you might have a better defensive rating, I would think, because it's able to measure you more directly rather than by the team's defensive rating. In a zone, you're playing more of a team defense than a man-to-man defense. So a strategic defense. And LeBron's good at those. That helps him too. He's good at coaching that, the defensive, and calling plays on the defensive side when they're doing his own defense. Then that helps with zone defense, team defense. So, I mean, there's different factors that factor in, but LeBron and Kareem especially, both of those guys, they've proven. People say people couldn't play in this era or that era. Well, those two guys played in 3 eras. They played in more than one era. They played a long time, and they were effective. They've been a top player in all 3 eras. All right, so Kobe played in part of Jordan's era, and so he was effective in both eras. So there's a lot of players that you could look closer at that, and they were effective in different eras. But the biggest thing I've noticed that this is the biggest trick that they play if they're getting away with bias and favoring you have a favorite player, and you're going to say, how dare you not put them at the top, but they won't prove by stats that somebody should be at the top. They'll prove it by how many games were won. It's not about games. It's about your individual stats. If you're grading the top player, you got to grade by individual stats. If you're grading the top teams, you grade by the team. So just because his team won, or because Jordan's team won, or Bill Russell's team won, that doesn't make them the best individual player. They had a good team. That was a team that won those things. So they play that stat a lot. They use that stat a lot. Now, they may have had something to do with it, but they had a good team, the team working with them. But it's the individual stats, your percentages, that matter for who's the best, most effective individual on the court. All right. So defensive rating, did Tim Duncan and David Robinson have the best defensive ratings of all time of the top centers of the best all-time players? They have the best defensive rating. There's one, maybe two that's right there with them. And I don't know why I forget this guy's name from Detroit, but he's up there close. And he was a defensive player, though. He wasn't a two-way player so much. And then there was, I forget the other guy's name, one more that was known as a defensive player. He wasn't an all-time player, but a great defensive player. Aside from those two players, David Robinson and Tim Duncan are way better than everybody else on the defensive rating chart all time. And it's not even close. They're above Akeem Olajuwon. So is it the fact that they both played on the same team, Tim Duncan and David Robinson, the fact that they played together helped their defensive rating go up? It's possible it did some, but they both played without each other too, and this is a career rating, so they were top in defensive ratings and without each other, and they were top with each other too. So anyway, I'm going to end there and just say, look, all you have to do is look at Kobe Bryant's and other players' field goal percentage rate. Career and each year too. You can look at each year on Wikipedia is one place. Basketball Reference is where something called Basketball Reference, that's part of the title, is where you can look at defensive ratings, all-time defensive ratings, and that's really for their whole career. So sometimes people got hurt, and at the end of the career didn't play good defense because of injuries, and that took their rating down. That stuff happens, but overall, this measures you out pretty good for your career. Maybe they should take them at their peak years and see who's the best. They could do that too. That's a separate rating, but it has to measure the whole career. So Basketball Reference for defensive rating, go to Wikipedia, type in the basketball player's name, go down to career statistics and click on that and look at their statistics for shooting and rebounds and other things. And I don't have time to study all the rebound statistics, but so I got Kevin Durant near the top. I got Kevin Durant above Kobe. Kevin Durant, if I remember, may have better statistics than Jordan. And LeBron may have better than Jordan. And Kevin may have pretty close to LeBron's or better sometimes, some years. But I forget who had, for the most years, had better shooting statistics. And so those guys are, I would say, if I had to, I don't remember, this isn't exact, this is just a guess, but an example to give you an idea of why I make it's such a big difference to me. Because Kevin Durant and LeBron are 50 and above, and so is Kawhi Leonard. 50% and above, approximately, for their averages. They had years of 49%, but they have years of 54%, 52%, 51%, but on the average 50, maybe 51 or 50, I would say it's close to that. Kobe Bryant his average might be 45% from field goal range. And then LeBron has better three-point shooting than Kobe on the statistics. And then, so just because we focused in on LeBron's misses on highlights, and we never showed Kobe's misses, we always showed his makes. He missed them. If they showed it in the highlights, you'd see he missed a lot. So, but he was taking a lot of shots. It's not that he missed more than other people. That's why he's got that position. He still made more than the average player, and he had the engine and the energy to keep going too. So that is good about Kobe. But these guys that have the higher percentage, like Jordan, he may just be really that much of a better shooter, and he has a motor and energy, but he also I think he made better decisions and passed the ball more when he should, or he used himself as a decoy, maybe more than Kobe. I've seen Kobe make some good plays and use himself as a decoy and make great passes. I've seen him do that. But according to statistics, he didn't do it as much as these top players that have that top statistic. And so they measure plus minus some different way, and I don't know what that is. And there are other factors to the game. There's other variables and everything else. And somehow, I don't understand plus minus, but I like it when I see a player has a good plus minus rating, and then sometimes it surprises you who has it and how they got it. I don't know exactly how they measure it. That's another statistic to measure that I'm not one that can figure out how they do that all the way. But that's a different factor than regular percentages. A lot of these plus minus, the guys that do really well in plus minus are guys that don't shoot much. And they're just what they call glue players for the team. They play defense and they play off the ball, and they usually have a high percentage shot, but they only shoot a few times per game. And they're just there to be a decoy or to set picks and do different things. And so their plus minus factors in their defense and offense. Sometimes they just measure their plus minus on defense, sometimes the plus minus on offense. But that matters too, what your plus minus is. So some of these guys, the ones that act sophisticated, like, no, wait, this guy's as good as this one. They could be looking at plus minus too, but you can't ignore shot percentage. That one's more obvious than plus minus. So if your plus minus is terrible, obviously that matters. But I don't think these guys are looking, to be honest, I doubt that they're looking at plus minus in the debate of greatest of all time, because they're ignoring shot percentage, which is more obvious than plus minus. And so they're looking at other things and favorites and bias and they're looking at stuff like who won the most or who had played the most years at the top. But we want to know who the best all time was in their peak. And then we know who the best all time was consistent wise throughout the years. And that is Kareem and LeBron. But in their peak, who's the best ever? And Jordan was good even before his peak. He just didn't have Pippen. So anyhow. But so where do I rank LeBron? I'm still studying that. I'm not finished with it. But I like Dwayne Wade and I like Clyde Drexler for their statistics. And we've ignored those two because we're so busy promoting Kobe. We didn't want to bring them into there was a trick in always talking about Kobe and LeBron. You're leaving Dwayne and Clyde Drexler out of the debate. And some of them would say, if you brought them into that debate, they'd say, no, wait, you can't even put them in the same sentence with Kobe. That's not true. The truth is they should have been comparing those guys and maybe a few others like Kevin Durant. And they should have been doing that more. And Larry Bird and Dr. J. And then you look at their stats, their shooting stats. Then you can also, after that, you can determine, well, according to those two measures, yes, these guys are better than Kobe Bryant. according to those measures. But now let's factor in the plus and minus. What was their average plus and minus? And then that matters. That's on paper. That's not about the eye test. The eye test isn't always right. So I've seen some players that can jump over people. A guy named maybe Eddie Griffin, I forget, this might have been his name. And I'm always like, why don't y'all take him? He always made the practice squads and then never made the team. Made the team as a sub one time that I recall, and I don't know if that's the right name, but I was trying to get him to get on Miami Heat when LeBron was there. I tried to get him to talk him into just through emails and stuff and websites and saying, get this guy. Why don't you get this guy? He could jump out of the gym. And he was good on defense. I don't know if he was good on offense or if he had the best IQ for basketball team. I don't know what it was they didn't want him for, but I'm like, good. He doesn't have to be the smartest player. We just need a rim protector, I'm thinking. Somebody who can protect the rim and is a threat for going to the basket and dunking the ball at a high percentage. He can shoot high percentage rate and dunk the ball. I'm thinking, why didn't they get him? I still wonder with that. I don't know the real story on that. Why didn't he ever work out for these teams? He was the best athletic. He was the most athletic I've seen in years. So I don't know that story, and it could have something to do with plus minus or turnovers. How do you have turnovers, though, in that position when you're not the ball handler? I don't know. I can't figure some of that out. Could have been politics. For some reason, he didn't fit in. Maybe he didn't get along in the locker room. I don't know. It baffles me. But people can be up on a player or down on a player, and there can be some hidden things. It's not all about the field goal percentage. It could be something else where they just didn't have chemistry with the team. And so that does matter. But to me, I'm looking at consistency. What I like about LeBron is he's passed the ball around. He clearly did make good decisions. That's why his percentage is high. He's not seen as a natural shooter, jump shooter, that is, but he's had good shot selection and he passed the ball around. And so he wasn't missing a lot of shots, by stats wise. And so obviously you watch a game, you see him miss a shot. Like, I saw him miss 4 shots this game. Well, that always appears that way. But when you add it up, if you saw the whole game without taking a break, you saw the part where he had a hot streak and he scores a lot too. But it comes out to, around 50-50. And that's high for these guys. But we don't notice when these other players miss shots. We're like, our team just keeps throwing air balls. You get mad at the team, but you don't notice which players are doing that the most. You're noticing just the lead player that you came to watch. They said he was good and he missed these shots. But I'll just say, but LeBron and Jordan, I think Jordan you could look at as a ball hog. I view Kobe as a ball hog somewhat. And that's what I didn't like about it. But at times I'm like the fact that they did hog the ball because they're the best player on the court, basically. He is that in that realm, I'm saying. But Clyde Drexler maybe didn't hog the ball as much as Kobe, so his shooting percentage was better maybe for that reason. So let's say, what if Kobe slowed his game down and played more team ball in a sense, or more sharing the ball more with the other best players? I won't say so. In Kobe's view, he was still playing team ball because it's the team's safer for him to shoot. His view, right? And in a sense, that's true too. That's true. That's how Jordan played, and Jordan he had a higher percentage than Kobe, so it was more true with Jordan than it was with Kobe that the team's better off for him to have the ball in his hand. And sometimes when you pass the ball, you're passing it to a player that's going to miss, and you would have made it. So, and we've seen LeBron where we're thinking he could have made that shot, but he passed it. I've seen him go that far a few times. I'm like, you're under the basket. That's a higher percentage shot than the 3-point shot. Take that basket. So there's a few times I wanted that, and that's where it's debatable which one's better. But overall, it is good to keep the defense chasing the ball and wondering what you're going to do by sharing the ball more. That does factor out that way, in my opinion. And so I like LeBron's style better than Jordan's, or a cross between the two. But I wouldn't necessarily think that LeBron can do. I think LeBron can do more than you think if he was a ball hog, a little more of a ball hog. I've seen him do it a couple of times. But the style he uses, he drives to the basket more, and he would wear himself out and maybe get injured. Higher chance of injury the way he would do it, whereas Jordan had all kinds of ways to score. But he still chose good shot selection. He got to his best spots mostly, and he's stuck with those more, and that's why his percentage is good. And so you have that's one of the reasons his percentage is good. So I would still prefer, like, the best player of all time might be a cross between Jordan and LeBron. I could say you could still have a better player than Jordan from that standpoint. And if he didn't hog the ball quite as much as he did, I think that's better. Anyway, in other words, I like LeBron's style better of sharing the ball more. But and like Magic, kind of like Magic. But so anyway, that's my take on it. If I think it's on purpose that these guys don't talk shooting percentage when they're arguing the greatest of all time, especially when they have Kobe in there in the factors, because he doesn't fit in that. If you look at just shooting percentage by itself, that eliminates Kobe from the top 5 and maybe even the top 10. It makes it hard to put him in the top 10, honestly, because then you have to go. For me, I have to do shooting percentage, and that which includes that I have to put, because of his shooting percentage, I have to put centers, post players in front of Kobe based on shooting percentage. Now, they have the easiest shots. They have the highest percentage, even better than Jordan. Some of them do. But really, it's Jordan. That's the thing. Jordan, LeBron, and Durant, they all have, and Dr. J, they all have shooting percentage. And who else? Kawhi. Not Dwayne Wade or Clyde Drexler, but pretty close. They're really close. But all those other guys I just mentioned, their shooting percentage is as high as most centers who shoot slam dunk the ball. That's all they do, slam dunk mostly, and do layups, inside shots and shots in the paint. And their shooting percentage is as high as those guys. So those guys' effectiveness matters. Their impact matters because they have good shooting percentage and they defend the rim. So they have the best defense. But these other guys quarterback too. The guys on the perimeter quarterback the game. They keep the fours spread out so you can use the centers, right? And so Jordan and LeBron. And so I have to put, David Robinson, Wilt Chamberlain, maybe Shaq if you don't count free throws. Shaq, Bill Russell, all these guys that shoot better percentages that play in the post, I have to put in front of wing players who have not so great shooting percentage in the top 10. So my top 10 players need to have good shooting percentage, because missed shots means the other team goes down and scores. Bottom line. And so when I want a player on my team, and I've picked players to go, and I say I promote y'all, get this guy, and I try to just go in media and just make a guy popular who's not that popular, because okay, he might only score 5 points a game, but his shooting percentage is 49 to 50%. And all these guys they say are so great, sometimes they shoot a lot, or sometimes 42%, 43%. I don't want that many missed shots. Look, let's have this guy that plays off the ball well, gives us a good plus and minus. He can play defense, but he doesn't take crazy shots and miss many shots. All right. So, and that every team I've seen that wins, that's the kind of guys they have as their supporting cast. Jeff, I forgot his name. Oh my goodness, I'm terrible with names. But one of the announcers that used to play for LeBron, he was one of those type of players. He had a high shooting percentage, didn't shoot much, was good on defense. And let's see. The players that played for Golden State, Sean Livingston, Andre Iguodala could score a good fair amount, but these guys had high shooting percentages and were good on defense and didn't shoot a lot, especially Sean Livingston. And there were a few other players like that on Golden State. And teams that usually when they win the playoffs, there's Pope, and they have a good 3-and-D player who doesn't shoot very many shots but has a high shooting percentage, not a low shooting percentage, and focuses on defense. And so that's who your supporting cast is. Usually when you have that kind of supporting cast and you have pretty good lead players, that's the team that has a chance to win. And I'll end with that. And so Kobe won some. He won some with Shaq. I forget who else he won with. But Shaq was a big deal. Shaq has a high shooting percentage. He's in that bracket. He's one of the better shooting percentages of all the centers, by the way, from the field goal. Now, he's not – the free throws hurt his name a little bit. And not being in shape throughout the year hurt his name some, but he was always ready by playoffs. That's his statement. So that's where he kind of hurts from ranking his free throws, and then just not being the best shape, and not being much of an outside shooter, although he could do more than you think. But he wasn't used as much in outside shooting. So that's where, for me, where I sometimes don't put Shaq in it is outside shooting, and then the fact that he doesn't rank as high on defense. He's good on defense, but he doesn't rank as high as David Robinson. Not even as high as Kareem, I think. I'm not sure. Not as high as Hakeem Olajuwon. So Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson I put in front of Shaq because they're more well-rounded players. They can shoot good free throws, and they can run the court more and fast break more and that kind of thing. But it's still debatable. It's not. I'm not 100% right because Shaq did score more than I think both guys. Hakeem might. It's debatable. But David Robinson scored a lot. There was times he sat out after the third quarter because they had the lead, and he already had 60 points, and he didn't want to run the score up. But he could have set scoring records, by the way, if he wanted to, probably better than a lot of the guys. A lot of the guys that set those records were in there trying to set the records. But David Robinson sat down and let somebody else play instead of trying to get that record. And he was close to it, right? So, and he did have a 71-point game. I don't know the whole story behind that. But somebody that might made him stay in the game just so he could beat Shaq for that year for the scoring record for that year or something is what I understand. But, yep. So anyways, we'll just end on that. But shooting percentage matters. And that's exactly, it's not anything against Kobe Bryant. I like his style of play. I mean, except for I don't like too much ball hogging. I don't mind some ball hogging because I want my best player to have the ball in his hands the most. The one who shoots the highest percentage. And so really that's me. I want my guys on the perimeter to pass it to the center. I want the center shooting the most baskets because that's the highest percentage shot. And so, but I want that center to be able to shoot. They're going to get fouled because they're hard to stop. I want them to be able to shoot free throws. That's why I like David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon. And I'm not sure what his stats are. I just haven't heard of him being bad on free throws. That's why I like Kareem. I think they're all decent free throw shooters. And then Tim Duncan. And that's where I could take them over Shaq or Dwight because of free throws. And so Dwight Howard fits in that, pretty close to that level, by the way, in his prime, before he hurt his shoulder. People forget he hurt his shoulder, right? So, and it always bothered me they didn't bring that up when he was at the Lakers. They always wanted to pick on Dwight, but he was injured. He was injured when he was with Kobe. And it was a bad injury. It was unfortunate, but they always acted like it's something else. You can't, I mean, there's certain injuries you just can't play up to par with. If it's bad enough, and it can be a certain angle if it's something like a joint in the shoulder, a foot or knee, there's some knee injuries you can get by with, and some other ones you can't. If it's the wrong angle, I mean, it's over almost. So that's just the way it is, and he had a bad angle his shoulder was definitely bad. He's not a guy that didn't want to play and didn't want to be the best. He wanted to be the best for his own. He didn't feel good about himself if he wasn't playing at his best. He knew what he could do. So I put it like that. I don't want to call it pride. I'm against pride. I'm a Christian. I believe in pride is a sin. So, but there's a certain words for athletic. What's the word I want? Dignity. You want to have people to have. You want to show you have dignity in the sport and that kind of thing. If you have the talent to do something well, usually you want to do it. There's some people that don't. That's true, but Dwight's not that guy. He wanted to do his best. He wanted to make it. He wanted to make a name and live up to his potential. And I think he proved that throughout his career near the end. I don't know why the Lakers didn't keep him. I said this before. It's like if they would have kept him one more year, and JaVale, there may have been other reasons they didn't, they would have won again. And I thought at times it's politics. They don't want LeBron winning 2 championships and tying Kobe or anything like that, or being able to brag and say he's better than Kobe. On the Lakers, they want Kobe to be the best Laker of all time. That's cheating. So Kobe is probably, to me, the best Laker of all time, longevity-wise and being committed from that standpoint. But to me, Magic Johnson's the best Laker of all time. Probably. It's him or Kareem. So it's not that, I'm not saying they're better than Shaq, but those guys were, to me, thought of as Lakers, long-term Lakers. And even Kareem wasn't the longest-term Laker, but Magic was a true Laker. And Kobe was a true Laker. And Magic's just super underrated. And that people are starting to find that out. But I'm going to go, and Kobe's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's in the top 15 to 20 players of all time, in my view. But literally. So I'm still weighing that out. I'm not finished with it because I'm re-looking at all these statistics, but I got to go.